everybody, Christine here. Welcome to Doorstep Flower School. Lovely to have you all with us again. Lots of new people joining again this week, so that's really good. I think we're back up in the 70s again, so we have lots and lots of delivery drivers, and hopefully you'll all get your flowers early afternoon today. This week's been exciting because the market reopened, New Covent Garden Flower Market. There's been lots of it all over social media, some amazing scenes, you know, of peonies and other British flowers, like right across as far as the eye can see. Don't know if they're selling them all, but anyway, they've got them all. And so we're wondering whether to take a trip up there next time for the next flower school and, you know, buy on spec and get some things which are in season and which are very available, maybe English if we can, things like cornflowers, Sweet William, whatever they've got really. Now it would mean that we wouldn't have such a lovely uniform display, so and they're shorter stems typically, so there's some, you know, pros and cons. So Steve and I are kind of debating, and we'll let you know. Whatever it will be, of course it'll be gorgeous and it will look great in your vase. So the other thing I wanted to say, as we're getting a little bit more of you every week, I am becoming the world's largest owner of buckets and I could do with perhaps not buying any more buckets. So we might ask any of you who could have your own bucket of water outside your door when we deliver, so we can pop it in your bucket. That would be really helpful and means that, you know, I can have some space outside still to walk and not just be surrounded by buckets. So thank you for that. This week we've got a little bit of a different setup as we're just switching over our studios to be ready for reopening with our new social distancing, individual tables and everything. But hopefully you can still see us. We've got an interesting new angle on our side camera, which means we have to look up. And very excitingly, we've got our new revamped brochure. We will see if we can bring one actually to all of you today with the buckets. So look out for that. So without further ado, I'll hand over to your lovely maker, Stephen, or as someone described him last week, you know, he sort of stands and does things and kind of talks to himself as he does it. Hopefully you can hear him. Do let us know, I'm sure you can. And he can tell you all about what you're going to be doing with these gorgeous flowers. Thanks.
Hello all of you, welcome along again. As Christine mentioned, hi to all those that have previously been with us, and a special welcome to all the newcomers to our Doorstep Flower School. I know I've said it before, but it's really lovely knowing that there's so many people around our area that love flowers as much as me and Christine do. Today we're going to be making a hand-tied bouquet. We have done this once before, but I think it's a really great skill to have in your arsenal really, so we're going to show you again how to make this hand-tied and talk you through it step by step. As Christine did mention, it's British Flowers Week this week. Unfortunately, the market's just opened and the quantities that we buy, we've not been able to bring British flowers to you this week, but we have bought with that in mind. So we have lots of seasonal flowers, things that are available to grow in the garden, but we've definitely got an emphasis on fragrance this week. So you'll notice, hopefully, when you receive your bucket, there's lots of perfume coming from your flowers. Anyway, I'll talk you through everything that we're using and give you flower varieties. It's always nice to have, and we'll start making a bouquet. So first things first, before we start conditioning our flowers, I just want to have a quick mention about our vase. I'm using the vase available on the CREATE98 website to work in. If you're looking for a vase around the home, try something similar that's not too wide a neck because you want your hand tied to sit comfortably in. And again, not too tall because we've got some shorter flowers here today, and you don't want your stem sort of lost in the vase. Anyway, before you start, make sure your vase is nice and clean and it's got a good sort of third to a half full of clean fresh water ready to go. And I'm going to put that to one side and I'll talk you through what you've got in your bucket. Move that over there. So first things first, we're going to start with our foliage. So we've got this baby blue eucalyptus. Not a lot of foliage this week because we're really concentrating on the flower. Normally we'd use cinerea, which is a slightly wider leaf. This one is called baby blue. It's a lot stickier, you will notice when you're conditioning it, but that sort of resin really holds a lot of perfume, a lot of fragrance, so that's why we've gone with this one this week. So you can see where the stem is. I'm going to split that up into some smaller pieces here, and you just want to take those lower leaves off. It is very sticky, so it might be easier to pick those off individually, like so. bit fiddly, this one, but it really does have a lovely fragrance, and it dries quite nicely as well. That's it. Cleaning those stems off. So as I've said before, for those that are joining us for a second or third or fourth time, really want to make sure those stems are nice and clean that are going into your vase, because any leaf or thorns that you might leave on that stem, if it goes into the water, that's going to encourage breeding bacteria in your vase, and that's going to shorten the lifespan of your flowers and foliage. So that's why you've got nice clean stems going into your vase. So there we go. I'm just going to cut the bottoms of the stem. I'm going to cut them. Goodness me. Be careful with your scissors. You really will get that aroma from the oils in the eucalyptus as you condition it. And break those leaf stems. That's that conditioned, ready to go. So just a couple of pieces of that. I've got another piece in there, I'll pop that in. And then we're using Buplurum as a foliage, a bit like Alchemilla mollis, very similar. It was summer lime green flower stroke foliage, and this is lovely and tall, so you'll definitely be able to split this up. So you can see where it branches on your stem. I'm going to split there, so we're kind of building up multiple stems out of that one big stem of foliage, and then just taking off those lower leaves, like that. I think I can get loads out of this. That's probably a bit too low down, so I'm going to take that piece off. As I've said before, those little bits that are maybe too short to use, you might want to save them up, put to one side. You could use them to make a little bud vase arrangement, or maybe a little flower crown or something like that. Have a little practice and a little play. I'm going to stop there, I think, with the plume. There's a bit more left on that stem, but I feel like I've been a bit greedy. I've probably pulled out the two biggest stems out of the bucket there, so I think that's more than enough to work with. So that's our Buplurum. So that's all our foliage is done. Now we're going to move on to our flower. First of all, we've got this gorgeous scented heat-cut lavender for us to use, so not much condition at all. Just taking those lower leaves off, nice and easy to strip down using our finger and thumb. This is really tight bud actually, so this should open up beautifully and release more perfume as the days go along. That's all condition ready to go. I'm just going to give the bottoms of that a snip. As I've said before, I keep saying that, I know there's a lot of new people out there. When I cut my flower stems, I always cut on a 45-degree angle for two reasons. Firstly, most importantly, you want to create a bigger surface area as you possibly can at the bottom of your flower stem for it to drink as much water as possible. And secondly, when your flowers go into the water, you want to make sure if you're cutting an angle, it's not going to sit flat against the bottom of that vase, so it's going to be able to have a good drink whilst it's positioned in the vase. That's the lavender done. Now we're going to move on to these beautiful stocks. Absolutely heavenly. Taking off those lower leaves again. So we've gone for a nice kind of mix of whites, greens and mauves this week. Real lovely garden border feel. Again, just taking off those lower leaves, ready to go. The stock leaves are quite a nice strong leaf actually, and they will help support our arrangement in the vase. So I'm going to keep a few of those upper leaves on. So again, cutting those stems on a 45-degree angle. Ready to go. Right, next we're moving on to a couple of non-scented items, but they're going to add a nice bit of volume and a bit of colour and interest into our arrangement. We have these beautiful silver shadow spray roses. So taking those leaves off, and be mindful of the thorns on the roses as well. I like to pick the thorns up individually. But you might be able to, if you'd rather, you could put your flower stem flat onto your table and take the back of your knife or scissor blade down to take those thorns off. Just be careful of stripping or sort of damaging the flesh of the rose stem. because sometimes that can encourage, if it's sort of split a lot with your back of your knife, it can encourage bacteria again to grow and shorten the lifespan of your flowers. Now you can see on this one here, we have a couple of blind stems, so with no flower head on. So I'm just going to take those off just to neaten up my stem. So 3 of these, the same as the stocks. As a general rule, we tend to work in odd numbers, so 3s, 5s, 7s. Much easier to arrange with, and you get a nice even display working in odd numbers. Cutting those bottoms again, so that's our Silver Shadow Spray Rose is done. Next we've got some Alstroemeria, really of this time of year. I mean, lots of people grow it in their gardens now. It really grows well as a cut flower actually. Probably worth, I've always invested in a couple of them from garden centres because they're great in a vase and there's so many different colours available. So we're just going to take our finger and thumb down and strip those leaves off. This one is like a mauvey green shade. Again, 3 of those. I mean, as I'm sure you all know, the Alstroemeria, fantastic vase life. Should get a good couple of weeks out of the Alstroemeria. It really is a tough flower, lasts ever such a long time. Cut those bottoms again. Next, we're moving on to our flowering mint. Beautiful. There's lots of different varieties of mint out there. This one is called Silver Queen, and it's got this gorgeous lavendery, sort of silvery flower on the top, kind of mirroring the colours of the lavender and that spray rose. So again, I'm just taking off those lower leaves. Smells absolutely delicious. Again, you might have a few little lower buds that you want to keep to use in another arrangement. Taking those off. That's them done. And then last of all, we have our Norma Jean roses. Now there aren't many fragranced cut roses anymore. There's a few around. A lot of them are ridiculously expensive and they've got a very short vase life. This is a really strong Dutch variety called Norma Jean. Beautiful fragrance, opens out really prettily, and it's not too expensive either. How long that will last, I don't know, but I absolutely love it. So I'm taking off these lower leaves again. There don't seem to be too many thorns on these ones. I've got off lightly here. If you do find a thorn, just be careful of it, and as I say, you might want to pick it off individually. Slow and steady wins the race. That's them all cut. And again, I'm just going to cut the bottoms of them. There we go, we have everything all conditioned, ready to go to make a start on our hand tie. Right, so we're all conditioned, ready to go. I'm going to bring my vase in a little bit and I'm going to use that as a gauge when I'm cutting my stems. So before we start, we've all got a piece of binding wire ready to make our hand tie bouquet. Different florists use different things. Some people use twine, some people use tape. Here at CREATE98, me and Christine both really love this binding wire. So it's a paper covered wire, really easy to manipulate, and it creates a nice secure fastening around your bouquet. So before you start, make sure you've got that ready to hand to tie your bouquet once you've finished. So I'm going to put that to one side, and then we're going to start with our hand tie. So to start off with, I'm going to start with a piece of foliage as a nice strong woody stem to start positioning our flowers in. Now, everyone has a different way of doing their hand tie bouquets. I hold the bouquet in my left hand and I pass from my right into my left, as you'll see as we go along. Whichever way you feel more comfortable, you might decide to hold in this hand, in your right hand and pass through. Just make sure that you keep following that same rhythm and use that same pattern all the way through. And then you don't get crossed stems and everything should move in the same direction. So what we're looking for when we build up our stems, there's a lovely spiral direction of all our stems all going in the same direction. And I've said this line before, but I always think about when you drop that spaghetti into a saucepan and the way that spirals around into your pan, that's kind of how you want your stems to look. Anyway, so we're going to start with a piece of eucalyptus, then I'm going to go in with the spray rose actually to build up a bit of volume in my display. So I'm going to pass behind, you see in this direction, so looking onto you, I'm passing behind my eucalyptus stem on the diagonal like so. So that is the direction I'm going to pass everything in. So crossing that stem over and then turning it. So when you add in your next stem, it's going to build up and you're going to get a nice evenly display all the way around. I just noticed I've got a bit of a blind end to the top of that eucalyptus. I'm going to snip that off. So passing that in, I'm going to add a piece of my bouclure in. Again, passing in that direction behind on the diagonal. There we go. And turning. I'm going to go for a stock next, again same direction, and keep turning Now what I like to do when I do a hand-tied bouquet is add one of everything in, then stop and look down at your bouquet, look at it from the side, and then you can start adding in that second round of everything. And I find that a better way of building up a nice even distribution. Now everything's in threes apart from the duplurum, which, I mean, that was only a couple of stems, but as we've split that, we'll probably find you probably about 5 stems in there, and the lavender. So I'm going to try and distribute them around the bouquet as we go along. I'm going to put my flowering mint in, again on the diagonal. I think I'm going to go in now for a couple of stems of that lavender, so I'm going to group a couple together and add that in one go. And if you don't hold your bouquet too tightly, you can have a little play around with your heights, maybe lifting things up, lowering a few things down. So if you've got a few different heights going on, it just creates more interest, more depth to your arrangement. So turning again, now I'm going to go in with one of these beautiful Norma Jean roses, again passing behind, not really passing in front of them. There we have one of everything in there, and so we're ready to start again. I'm going to go with a bit more of a plural. I need to pass that all the way around here. So keep turning, and what you're looking for is an even distribution of everything around your arrangement. So I'm going to go for a second stock now, and I can see this stock is here. So I'm going to take my second stock and put it behind there. So you've got to, so it balances each other out, so it's there. Add a bit more of my eucalyptus in. And I think I'm going to go for a second spray rose. Again, you can see that there, so I think I'm going to put that in here behind. Again, passing behind in that direction, and it slowly builds up in your hand. You can feel the sort of hand tie growing, and it gets a little bit more difficult to hold, but not too much. I'm going to put a bit more of the lavender in. I think that's there, so I'm going to put that in over this side. I think I've got my Norma Jean rose there. I'm going to put another one in here. You can see also where I've kept that foliage, that upper foliage on the stems. It really is helping to build out the shape of our hand-tied bouquet. Go for a bit more of Navinclura around here. A second Alstroemeria. So that one's there. I think that needs to go over here somewhere. Again, passing that same direction. Also, you can really see how those stems are starting to spiral around as your bouquet grows. A second lavender, that's all the way over here, so I think that needs to be over here somewhere. A second lavender. So I think we need some more volume here, looking down upon it. So I think I'm going to have my last spray rose into there, because that's a nice and chunky stem, and it's really going to build up the round shape. I'm going to tuck that in there. And some more of that Purpura. So now we're going into those third and final stems and everything. And I always like to think of, when I'm building this up, you're thinking of a triangle shape. So you want a 1, 2, 3, so you get a nice even placement of your 3 flowers in your bouquet. So there's a bit of interest on each side. So I've got 1 and 2 of my stocks here. So I'm going to put that third one in over here to balance that out. You'll see you've got those 3 points there. Can I add a little bit more of this lavender? Bring that round, so I need some of that over this side, I think. I've got a cluster here, so I'm going to put a few stems in over here. And my roses, I'm going to bring that over this way a little bit. And I think I'm going to put that last rose over here. And you probably notice as you're working with your bouquet and the heat from your hands really does kind of bring out the fragrance in those flowers. So things come in very early in the morning, it's cold and damp, and it's not till they hit the warmth of the home and they start to open up that you really do get that fragrance being released. I've got my last piece of mint now, so I've got 1, 2, I'm going to put that one over in that corner, I think, turning that bouquet around. And it really is a practice make perfect thing with a hand tie. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get holding it and positioning your flowers and sort of teasing around and working with those different heights. So we're nearly there.
Oh, I think I was just in the shot.
Yeah.
Sorry everybody, I was trying to take a picture.
Last bit of the blur in there. Oh, just quickly to say, I've just noticed as I'm building this up, there are a few pointy things in our bouquet. So things like the lavender, the stocks, the flowering mint, Now these flowers have just come in this morning, so they've travelled overnight, Wednesday night to Thursday morning, they travel dry in boxes. So what you have to bear in mind is please, you need to give them a cut of the stems and give them a bit of a drink, so an hour or two, let them have a good drink before you start arranging them, and those stems will really start to pick up again. So please don't be alarmed if things look a bit droopy. They'll travel dry in these cardboard boxes overnight on freight trucks. You've got to be a bit patient with them. That last bit of lavender. My last alstramira, so I've got 1, 2, so I'm going to put that third one in here. And what I always like to do with a hand tie is just say like a little bit of foliage at the end, and that will help when you tie your bouquet with your binding wire. It will just help to support where you're putting your knot, and just have a little bit of extra security. So if you're not going directly, you're not pulling tightly through a really soft stem like the flowering mint or the stock. So I'm going to put those last couple of bits of foliage in the front here, and that's where I'm going to fasten my bouquet. There we are, a beautiful scented garden bouquet. There's that stock, I just want to turn that down a little bit. And ready to tie. So I like to cut my stems before I tie, so you're taking the majority of the weight off before you fasten your bouquet. Again, everyone has a different technique. Personally, I prefer this. I find if you tie first and then you cut all this weight off the bottom of your bouquet, sometimes it can cause the stems to jiggle around a little bit and you might move the arrangement and lose some of your shape. So I'm going to cut my stems first. So I'm going to use my vase as a gauge, so bringing your vase in and holding where you want your bouquet to sit. So I want this to sit really on the neck of my vase. So I'm going to cut probably about so, I think. And move that out. And I've got that one incision there which I'm going to use as a gauge to cut all of my stems so they're all the same length. Again, as I've mentioned already, cutting everything on that 45-degree angle. Everything's cut the same length. And there we are, ready to tie. So I'm going to take my binding wire, take the length of it, and we're going to wrap it around our hand. And actually, excuse me, I'm going to use my teeth here. And bring it around and hold it with my thumb. So I'm going to pass it around the back of the bouquet and hold that down with that thumb. And you've got a nice secure point there that you can wrap it around 2 or 3 times to hold it secure. Put it nice and tight. And then you can release that other piece and then twist or tie those stems together. Not stems, they're pieces of binding wire, beg your pardon. A few times. And you can take the scissors and just cut that excess off and then tuck that back in. And there we have our completed hand-tied bouquet ready to position in the vase. Look at this, check that should be okay. Put it straight into the vase. Now I can see that probably needs to take a little bit more off the stem, so I'm just going to take a smidgen back off, which I know I said I wouldn't do. But as a perfectionist, I want it to sit nice and straight on the vase. Now, so as Christine mentioned, we're contemplating going out to market next time. It's such a different experience and something that we've definitely missed over the last few months of lockdown. But you really have to go with the flow a little bit more. They sell what's good on the day. So it really is a bit more of a spontaneous trip, but much more exciting, I think. And also there's a lot more flower varieties out there that we just haven't got access to when we're ordering remotely from our computers or our tablets. So there'll be lots of British grown stuff. I mean, like Christine mentioned, cornflowers, sweet williams, lots of other things, sort of garden flower varieties, real true English flowers. So it'd be lovely to give that a go. But as I think Christine mentioned as well, there's a chance we might be able to get, so everyone's got exactly the same. Although you'll get the same value of stems, and we'll make sure everyone's got the similar size bouquet, it might be a bit more looser with what we're using, so you have to bear that in mind. If anyone's got any thoughts on that, or they really like the sound of it, or they're not so sure about it, please do let us know, because all feedback really is welcome. So now I'm just going to finish off that bouquet, cutting it once more, and position it in there. And there we have our completed scented summer bouquet. So please do have a go at home. If you're feeling confident, please do take a few snaps, or you might even want to make a video, share it with us on social media. Don't forget to tag CREATE98 and use the hashtag DoorstepFlowerSchool. Also, as Christine mentioned, The summer revamp brochure is out now. We're hoping to get one out to you all today. So do have a look through. Lots of different classes, lots of different kits available if you are enjoying making things at home. And we're going to be continuing the Doorstep Flower School right the way through the summer. So all those dates are now available on the website. If you want to book ahead, or you've got a birthday or an anniversary coming up, you think it'd be a nice gift for somebody, you can book that right away up, I think, to July, August now?
End of August.
End of August. So lots of dates available. So go ahead and get some more things booked up and get creative. Enjoy, everybody, and we'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.